Welcome back, everyone, to the Average Breakdown podcast. Got Mr. Karson Hobbs here for the newest edition of Carson's Corner. Of course, talented 2024 commit to Notre Dame out of Archbishop Moeller in the state of Ohio. Bringing you all a little bit of an insight into Carson's process, everything that's going on with him. We are only 30-something days away, 32 days, I think, today from Notre Dame football officially kicking off for the 2023 season. And Karson will be kicking off his season very soon after that. So, Karson, appreciate you for hopping in, man. I know it's been super busy. And I don't know if you want to share the injury news. There was a little bit of an injury that happened, but I looks like speedy recovery so far.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get back. I had tore the UCL lateral ligament in my thumb playing back shoulder fade ball. Defended it, came down. Teammate jumped high. He was going to come down and land on to the concrete, but I put my hand under him to try to save him. My thumb was pointed up, snapped. So then it went down, ligament tore, and I had to go get surgery about 2 days after. But we still are on track to try to make it back by week 1, so we should be good.
Man, and I'm so sorry that obviously that happens. I know it's a really difficult. Right. My senior year, I tore both labrums in my shoulders. So like after the season, I had to get both the anchors put in and all that stuff cleaned up. And it's not fun, man. It's not fun. But luckily, it's not a crazy serious injury, right? Like you're gonna be back in a few weeks. You'll be able to get back for senior season, all that type of stuff. But man, I know it's a little bit difficult. How did everything go? Because I know you just had unfortunately you're hurt, recovering right after, for your birthday and everything. But how did surgery go? How was everything in that end?
Surgery went well. It was I think an hour and a half to 2 hour surgery. I wasn't awake, but that's what they said it was. And after that, it was a lot of pain. The first 3 days were awful pain. I couldn't even sleep the first night, actually, because when you're asleep and you're off pain medicine, and it's not working and it wears off, it was terrible. I got no sleep that night. So just being able to kind of just still get my flexibility back and my finger, and then being able to move on and keep on track for week 1 has just been the biggest goal. So,
yeah. Well, Karson, I didn't tell you about this before we started, but I got a little bit of a surprise for you. Okay. Great friend of the show, Daniel Hobbs, who is your father, sent me a video, and I wanted to play the video now and get your instant reaction to it. So let's play this video, Karson.
I bet you everybody that says
no way.
I'm about to have the speediest recovery that you ever seen. And why am I going to do that? Because I'm a trooper.
I don't remember what that was.
I don't believe you're hard worker. You don't get where you are without working hard. But don't hurt your thumb no more.
Right. I want to see it.
You can see it. It's in a cast.
Oh, cast it. You don't think you can maybe slide this?
There's no way.
Come on.
You're healing fast. You have to keep it on.
Like I said, boom. I'm ready to get back to work.
Not yet.
Whenever I can. And my arm was numb. But I promise you, if I get back to work, it's over for them guys, bro. Nobody work as hard as me.
There's just no way.
Man. I was so happy that your dad sent that my way, man. I was so happy. And I just want to let you know, I asked Mr. Hobbs, I was like, am I allowed to play that on the podcast? Because he said, talk about this on the next podcast. I needed to get permission of it. He gave me permission that I was allowed to show that on live here.
My gosh.
You had a little bit of the laughing gas that was still on you, man, a little bit.
I think it was a lot. Because it had lasted for about 2 hours after that. But I don't even remember saying anything in that video. I don't remember that.
Karson, I think that it is the biggest positive to you, though. I think that's like the biggest thing is that even when you don't remember and you don't have your wit straight, you're still talking about working hard, man. I think that's a positive. You need to think about it like that. Honestly, man, most guys would just be like talking gibberish or not talking anything. You're talking about getting back sooner than 10 weeks. Like that's what you're talking about. I think it's I think that is a big testament to the worker that you are, man. Because I think that most Notre Dame fans are going to watch that and they're going to be like, wow, man, he wants to get back that much. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a really good thing. So I actually say shout out to your dad for showing that because it shows how high of character you are, man. I think you need to think of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't even know how to feel about it. I'll just go with it and just
That's it, man. Hey, man, I really enjoyed the video, Mr. Hobbs. Shout out to you if you're listening right now. I thought that was fantastic. But glad surgery went well. All joking aside for a second, I remember when I was I came out after shoulder surgery, and I was like, I'm getting up super fast. I'm getting out of here because I hate hospitals, right? And I passed out, literally. Thought I was going to throw up, passed out, and like I slept for another like 2 hours because I just passed out. Man. Like,
where? In the hospital?
In the hospital. Literally, I was trying to get out of the bed, Karson. I felt super sick for like a second, and then I just passed out. I was like, oh, from the anesthesia. Like, I was done after that. So, yeah, man. So you actually had a really good reaction to it. Most people do not have that good of reaction. At least I didn't. So shout out to you, though, man. Again, thank you, Mr. Hobbs, for letting me show that. I appreciate you very much. Karson, good sport as always, man. It was fun
I'm a
times,
good sport
though.
about it. I'm going to talk to him about that without a doubt. It's all fun and games.
You know, it's funny. He DM'd me last night. I woke up to the message. He's like, talk about this on the next podcast, literally. I couldn't play it for some reason. Like, there's no playback. I was like, can you reset it to me? And he just said, like, laughing faces with, like, the video in there. And I was like, that is fantastic. Was that him laughing in the background, too? Like, that was him laughing.
He's somewhere in this house right now. He probably listened to it.
He probably knows, man. He probably knows. So shout out to him. Exactly. Shout out to him. I know we don't want to spend too much time on it, man, but it was just a good laugh. I think it was all in good fun. And a testament to you again. So good times. Good times. Well, let's talk about something super positive, Karson. Last time we spoke, Notre Dame was on a little bit of a rough stretch in recruiting, right? Justin Scott had just committed to Ohio State, and Carter Nelson went to Nebraska, and there was a couple. Isaiah Canyon decommitted from Notre Dame, so it was a little bit of a rough stretch there for like a week and a half. The last 4 days, though, dang man, we're back on track. If you're Notre Dame, got commitments obviously from Logan Saldate on Friday, who's a very talented wide receiver out of the state of California. I know I sent you his film over the before he even made the commitment, and you got a little bit of eyes on him. Want to talk about him. Also want to talk, obviously, about Kingston Viliamoesa, who's one of the top linebackers in the country in 2024 out of St. John Bosco. So we're not going to focus as much on the film, but I am going to bring the film up real quick. We just kind of want to have Logan's film playing in the background here, because he's a talented kid, man. I know, Karson, I sent it to you, and you're like, he's low-key solid, man. Like, and that's obviously saying like he's a good player, right? So what was your thoughts when you first saw Logan? And as a corner, I guess, what are just some key things that you saw in his film that like kind of impressed you, if that makes sense?
I think he's really dangerous when he gets the ball in his hands. So like right now in this clip right here, just open field, breaking the tackle, getting to the sidelines, and using your speed to your advantage right here. Like, he looks very, very smooth too. Very smooth. So yeah, I definitely picked that up too. I really haven't watched too much of his route running, but again, gets the ball in his hands. There we go. Makes another play. But you getting the ball in space, like right there, boom. There's another one.
Well, you know what I love about him too is that I think he fits with the other wide receiver in the classes so well, right? Because Cam is like a 6'1.5". He can play outside. He can play the slot a little bit, but he's more of an outside like Z receiver. Then you have Micah Gilbert, who's like 6'2", 205. He's a boundary type of kid. He's going to play, on the edge a little bit. And this kid, I think, is like an immediate slot. Like, you put him inside. Yeah. So I think the fit makes a lot of sense.
How tall is he?
He's 5'11", 185 pounds verified, I believe. So good size for a slot receiver. There's no doubt. Actually, really good size for a slot receiver nowadays.
Yeah, really good.
You know what I like about him too, Karson, is that although I think that he's most like, he is playing corner, man. Maybe you can tell me what you think about this little pick six he has here. I don't know, but
both ways versatile. I think you can play both ways as a wide receiver in the corner. You're a really good athlete, because a lot of people can receiver, but playing corner and receiver takes a lot of skill.
Yep. And the thing I really like about him is, although I think that he's a slot receiver ideally in college, he has some reps outside where he's winning 50-50 balls, winning above the rim. I mean, he's got some pretty good ball skills for his size as well, for a player of his kind of style as well, which I think is really interesting. Have you guys gotten a chance to chop it up with him at all yet, or is he kind of still a little new to the scene?
Very new to the scene, but just give it some time and we'll all be there.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny, man. I don't know if you heard any of this backstory, but after Isaiah Canyon decommitted, Notre Dame went like full scale search for a wide receiver. They had like I think like 8 or 10 guys that were kind of on the radar of guys that they were doing homework on, that they were watching a lot. And Logan was one of the kids that really impressed them on film. And he actually sent them videos of him running routes, him running a verified 40, all that type of stuff. And when that happens, they basically were like, that's our guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy that we really want in this class. So it's been fascinating to kind of follow, but Notre Dame family got even stronger. I'm sure I haven't talked to CJ Carr about this yet, but I imagine that CJ's pretty happy with this one, Karson. I don't know.
Good. Now he's got a guy that he can throw checkdowns to, and he can make a big play off of it.
Exactly. Because like I said, I mean, Cam's a guy that's going to make a lot of plays vertically. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then Micah, not to bring back bad memories, but you talked about like the back shoulder game where you got hurt. That's Micah's game, right? Like big physical boundary type dude that's going to be able to win in the short field with his physicality and strong hands, that type of thing. So big commitment, obviously. Logan Saldate, star receiver out of California, which I think was a tremendous job by. I mean, Chad Bowden is just. He's a baller, man. Like, we've talked about him a lot, Karson, but he does so much behind the scenes that I don't think people understand, man. He does a tremendous job.
He works very, very hard at the job. Even the first day after they offered me, he was texting me every single day. There was not one day I didn't get a text to Chad. When you commit, you know you got to come here. Come on, let me get you another visit up here. When can I see y'all again? When can I see your family? Like, he's good at what he does, and he takes a lot of passion into his players. So we all appreciate him a lot.
Well, and he's got a really good support system around him. Like, I talked to Caleb Davis a lot, who I know is a great part of their staff. I know they got Dre Brown, that's part of the staff. There's some other people that I know are part of the recruiting staff. Can you just tell me a little bit about, you don't even have to go into them individually, the people I named, but just how great the recruiting staff is in general on top of what Chad's able to do for you guys?
Well, being from the Cincinnati area, Dre Brown, Caleb, well, I don't know, Dre's not, but Caleb, and Mickens and Freeman all being part of the UC, well, not UC, but Cincinnati, background, and just being Cincinnati natives, we have all so much to talk about. Caleb went to Mason. I don't know where Chad went, but I know he was at UC. I know Mickens was at UC. I know Freeman was at UC. So they're familiar with a lot of the same things that I could say I'm pretty familiar with. So, and Dre Brown especially, he just, since the first time I met him, he was just like an OG, I would call him. Like, he's just super cool. Talk to him about whatever you ever heard. Anything on your mind, honestly, whether it be football, life in general. He's not too old to the point where he can't relate to you, but he's young enough to the point where he can still see the same life you're living because he was there, 6, 7, 8 years ago in college. So I just think having a younger staff that's more of a player personality embodied kind of, you know what I mean? Just being able to work with the players more than just being a strictly, work out, eat this, eat that, go back to the room, we'll see you at 6:30 tomorrow. Like, no, like these guys really do take care of you and make you feel like a family.
Yeah. I think everybody that I've gotten a chance to talk to from the recruiting, I would call them all personable. Like, they're guys that you can have a genuine conversation with, right? Like, it's not forced, which I think is great. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the second commitment, Karson, because this was the big commit of the weekend. This is one of the biggest commits for you guys in the 2024 class, in general. Notre Dame was able to get a commitment, of course, from Kingston Viliamo Asa, who's a star linebacker out of St. John Bosco, 6'3", 230 pounds. We have film playing in the background for anybody that's watching on YouTube. But, I mean, Karson, one spot that I think some people had question marks, because there's a lot of talent there, right? In Bodie Cahoon and Teddy Rizek already committed in the class. But Kingston is one of the absolute best players in the class. He's a top 100 near consensus player. How big was this guy to be able to nab him from Ohio State and from USC as well?
I think his reasoning was the craziest thing like I've ever seen, and I love it. I just love his reasoning, how his faith led him to do it, and this dude is crazy. Literally a top 3, top 4 linebacker in the country, and some people could even have him up there as number 2 and number 1. Like, in my opinion, regardless of what the rankings are telling me, I mean, watching this film, he's just an absolute baller. And I mean, looking at even shooting that gap like that with that type of speed, I mean, he's a really good player.
Yeah. Nah, man,
Great
he's
guy.
awesome. Obviously, he comes from one of the best. The one thing I love about the recruiting over the last couple of years, especially at Notre Dame, is that you guys keep getting into some of the best programs in the country. Like you're from
Right.
Archbishop Moeller, he's from St. John Bosco. Jaden Greathouse was out of Austin Westlake. You got De La Salle last year with Cooper Flanagan. Like you are getting players from some of the best high schools in the country. All you guys know how to do is win games, right? Like that's
Right.
all you guys know how to do. And I think that matters, man. I think that really does matter as you kill a fly on the
Yep.
podcast. And I love it,
Yep.
man.
I just it just came right in front of my eye. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my phone is at 1%. Can I reach over here and grab my charger real quick?
Yes, reach over as we continue to watch. We're live on the podcast here, so you are totally fine. Again, I think that Kingston Villiamoasa's addition to the 2024, I keep saying 2024 class is absolutely massive for Notre Dame. I really do. And getting Karson's perspective on this one, because this was one, and Karson, again, like, yeah, I mean, love your perspective on this, man, because this was a roller coaster for people that didn't follow this recruitment. There were times, a lot of times, where people thought he was going to Ohio State. There was a time where people thought he was going to USC. Notre Dame had some momentum after the official visit and then after the previous visit for the blue gold game. But Notre Dame really closed the gap here quickly and get a massive victory for this guy. So let me ask you this. As a recruit that I'm sure you've talked to Kingston a little bit in the past when you've gotten to see him and such, was this a surprise? Were you caught off guard that he committed to Notre Dame?
Well, CJ Card said in the group chat, I think it was 3 or 2 weeks ago that we were very close on him. I think we got a chance to get him. So we all texted him. Nobody ever got a response back. And then randomly 2 days ago, we just ended up seeing him commit. Well, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
It was Sunday, so 2 days ago.
2 days ago, and then I mean that was just it was so shocking because there was actually a report that came out on Monday that said Ohio State would have landed him if they would have sold his mom. You saw that one?
Yeah. Well, that was a big part of this recruitment. We've talked about this on the show a lot. Mom loved Notre Dame. That was a big help in this one, no doubt. They love Notre Dame.
Yeah, and landed a big time player like that. There were people, I remember reading the comment sections, whether it be in the Hayes Fawcett post or his commitment, saying that Jesus is Notre Dame's best recruiter. And, honestly, I wouldn't rather have it any other way.
It's not a bad person to have on your side, to say the least.
No.
There's not the worst person in the world to have on your side. So
especially if we land players like that.
Yeah, man. I think that this one was a massive get for you guys, not only because he was a position of need, not only because he's a great football player, but he's a fit, man. Like he's just one of those kids that I just think he belongs at Notre Dame. And it was funny, Karson. I have a good relationship with Kingston, and I had a really good relationship with him throughout the duration of this recruitment, but he did the same thing to me, man. When he was making his decision at the end, went radio silence, right? Because I just think he was just super focused, right? Like to be able to make this decision and everything. So Notre Dame gets a massive commitment, now up to 22 commits in the class. Only a few guys left out there. Gerby Lambert, obviously offensive tackle, who's a big target for Notre Dame. Davis Andrews, star safety out of Utah, is a guy that's on the board. And then after that, it's still recruiting guys like Justin Scott and Caleb Beasley and seeing obviously where those things fold. So you guys are almost finalized as far as what your class is going to look like. Now that you look back at it, for the most part, only a couple spots left. How happy are you with this class, man?
Very happy. I think this just topped off the cherry though, because I remember Chad was talking to me, and I think it was April. It was April 1st. It was that April 1st weekend when I went on a little 2-day visit for the weekend just to go visit up there. I think they had a recruitment day or a cookout. And I remember him. He was like, I'm really worried. I mean, we don't have a linebacker committed. Like, we're missing a spot. And, we had got Bodie Cahoon. And then from Bodie, then he was like, okay, well, we still need, we need at least 2 more. And then we had got Cole Sullivan?
Yeah, he committed to Michigan. Ended up.
Cole had decommitted, right?
Yeah.
And then he was really worried. And then we had got Kingston, I think, just now. And I think I'm missing one more. Am I missing one more?
So Teddy Rizak is playing well for you guys. So
when I look at Teddy in person, though, he's literally the definition of a safety. The way he's built. I've never seen
Yes.
somebody built like a safety.
I talked about that on the podcast yesterday. We were talking about Teddy Rizak and just like his body and stuff. And I even brought up, I was like, Karson on a podcast was like, I thought he was a safety. I didn't even think he was a linebacker type of thing, you know?
I'm so confused. He's fast and he's so tall and lengthy. Like, I'm like, this guy's a safety, right? And then they said, no, he's an outside linebacker. I said, huh? I mean, he's every part of a safety, but I think Notre Dame definitely. So we recruited him to be a linebacker, correct?
Yeah. Play
okay, so then we got Teddy, and then we have now Kingston, and I think that pickup right there just made our entire defensive core, I think, if not one of the best in the country so far for recruiting, whether rankings or not, because we're now jumped up to the number 4 spot. We jumped Michigan
by rivals. Yeah,
by rivals, we had jumped up to the 4th spot. So I think it was just a huge victory, and even getting the receiver. Sal Date, that was huge to top it off from Isaiah Canaan's decommitment, because if you want to pick up somebody to replace him, it's got to be somebody good. So I definitely think we landed a great one. Yeah,
no, I think that this class is now filled out to being one of the best in the country, and I think it already was. But I think just getting again, if Notre Dame is able to get Gerby Lambert down the stretch and a couple other guys, I think that this class is solidified for the second straight year of being a fantastic class under Marcus Freeman. Absolutely. So I'm excited for you guys, man.
That's a question for you.
Yes.
Whose class do you think was better, the 23 or the 24?
Don't ask me that, man. You're gonna get people. You're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna get people mad at me. Okay.
We got to know. I think the Irish breakdown was they were both loaded classes. Now, who would you say has, as of June or July? What is it? The 25th or the 26th?
It's 24th today, right?
24th.
25th. It's 25th.
25th. Right. Okay. 25th. Yeah. Whose class is better so far?
Man, Karson, I hate to do this, man, but I would probably go 23 just for the depth. I mean, I think that you guys have more like high end talent up top. Like I liked Kenny Minchie in 2023, but like CJ's a little bit of a different guy in my opinion in that regard. Cam's a little bit of a different guy. So I think the high end talent is 24 for me, but I think 2023, it's the depth that's a little bit different. I mean, last year, and again, we're talking about this on July 25th. So there's still a couple players that need to be added to the 2024 class. And so this conversation could completely change. Because the one great thing about 23, even though there were like a couple decommitments down the stretch, they hit every single need numbers wise, right? Like they had 5 offensive linemen, they had 4 defensive linemen, they had 3 safeties, they had 2 corners, they had a quarterback, they had a running back, they had their 4 wide receiver class. They just hit all the numbers. You know what I'm saying? And I think that just that kind of separates it a little bit right now. But if you guys get Gerby Lambert, you get Davis Andrews, and maybe you flip one guy down the stretch, then I think it's a really interesting conversation. Like, who do you like better? And I'm sure it will be one that we will have on this podcast.
Oh, for sure.
Which will be really fun. Last segment of the day. We usually do a random topic, but we ran a little bit long on the second section. So let's end it with this, Karson. I wanted to preview, because you're playing right now. Again, we'll see how the injury works out, but you are planning to try to get back for that first game of the season for your senior year. And you have a really difficult schedule, which I know you're excited about, but I just want to work through a couple of these games because a lot of tough ones. So Archbishop Moeller, you guys go Ben Davis, go Fort Wayne Bishop Dwenger, which for Notre Dame fans, they're going to be very familiar with both Ben Davis and Fort Wayne. Also East Central, another Indiana school. Center Grove, another Indiana school. So you guys are going with a lot of Indiana schools early. Then you start into your Cincinnati, Ohio schedule, some Cleveland schools as well. St. Xavier, LaSalle, Elder High School, which of course is the former high school of Kyle Rudolph, who's a Notre Dame great as well. St. Xavier, which I know is a great team, is right before LaSalle. You also have St. Ignatius, which is another good school. St. Edward and King in Detroit, Michigan. So that's a tough schedule, man. I know it always is for you guys because you guys have a great team, obviously. But just looking at that schedule, how excited are you for some of these challenges that you have coming forward?
Very excited. I was more excited, I think, last year than I was this year. But now, after the result, like going into last year, I was probably just as excited as I am now because we had just lost in the state semifinals, but we ended up doing it again to the same team. So we got a lot of get back to do this year. So I think just getting ready to play St. Ed's. They've won state 2 times, and we beat them in the regular season one season. We lost to them in the one season, but we never, ever got to see them in the state meet head-to-head. So that state championship, I just pray that we get to see them there this year especially because this is my last year. So I want to get off, and I want to leave high school with a ring and be a state champion. So I feel like if this is a year we can do it, this is the only year we could do it while I'm still here.
And that's St. Edward is the back-to-back you said for the state champs?
Back-to-back state champs.
Okay. And you guys are playing them at St. Edward this year, so in Lakewood.
Yep.
What's it like playing at their stadium? I'm assuming you've played there before.
Very windy. It's in Cleveland. It was really close to the Great Lakes. So I played there my sophomore year. That was when I just started getting back into the corner groove, and we actually played a really good game that game. We beat them. They were the number 13 team in the country at the time, and we had beat them by a game-winning pick by a guy named Mitch McNulty. It was one of our little slot corners, and he got picked and he won us the game. And then Jordan Marshall obviously ran the touchdown in, I think, to seal the victory in overtime. But yeah, so this year in Lakewood, it was not that many people the last time we played there because it was a Saturday game. Did we play them on a Saturday this year? Does it say Saturday?
Saturday, yep. Saturday, 10:14, yep.
That's what I'm saying. So the Saturday, what time? Does it say what time it's at?
It says 4:00 right now, unless it changes.
Those games are just with college football going on. They're just never there. There's a lot of people there, but they're just not as many because all the college football fans. But I think it's just cold. But hopefully this year it's sunny and we get some good weather because nothing better than beating St. Ed's in their hometown.
Well, I was going to ask you because you have, I believe, 2 Saturday games and then the rest are Friday games. Do you prefer playing on Friday nights? I mean, I was always a Friday night guy. I wasn't really a big 100%. Saturday guy, but
I hate Saturday nights only because, you go Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And it's really usually Monday through Thursday, and then you get Friday, you play the game and you get Friday night, Saturday, and then go back to meetings for evening on Sunday. Now when you have them Saturday games, it's Monday through Friday full practices.
Yeah.
And then that Friday's that half one, and then Saturday is like you're waiting all day anticipating the game. And then it's like, well, I'm not really worried about the weekend no more. Like I'm just trying to play. Like it's just so much waiting, I feel like.
And then you have Sunday to back to school on Monday, which is
that's the
quick
worst.
turnaround.
That was the worst part, knowing that the day after my game when I go to sleep, I have to wake up.
Oh man, that is the absolute worst. Yeah, I was the same way. I hated Saturday games. Absolutely. We always had 2 to 3 a year, and I absolutely hated it. Luckily, ours were usually a little bit earlier in the day, maybe like 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock or something like that, but it was still terrible. You have, Karson, I don't know if this is a usual thing. I would love to hear if it is, but you play a lot of Indiana teams this year. You play Ben Davis, Fort Wayne Twanger, you play East Central, you play Center Grove. Is that a usual thing for you guys?
No, we've only usually played East Central. But, I mean, I think it switches every year. So, actually, let me think. Last year, who do we play? No, we didn't play that many Indiana teams last year. It was just East Central and it's Trinity. No, that's in Louisville. So, I guess our old head coach, our new head coach now, Coach B, he works on scheduling all the games with whoever wants to play and whenever everybody is, has an open slot. So, I guess those are the only teams around this area we can find. But I think Center Grove, week 4, they've been really, really good in the past. Like Center Grove used to be a powerhouse, so I'm excited to play them too.
They did. You're absolutely right. Oh, and that kind of leads me to my last question before we power down the podcast. But is there a game outside of St. Edward? And I know you just mentioned Center Grove, but is there another game, maybe of the rest of the Ohio schedule, that you're really looking forward to? Again, we're talking about St. X, we're talking about LaSalle, Elder, St. Ignatius, St. Edward, and King. Oh, actually, sorry, King is the Michigan school, which is also a good school, by the way. But St. Edward, St. Ignatius, Elder, LaSalle, and St. Xavier. Is there another one outside of St. Edward that you're really looking forward to?
Oh, St. X, that's our rival, of course.
Yeah.
We play them at Welcome Stadium, so that'll be a really good game. Holds 23,000, and I expect any of you Notre Dame fans in here that live remotely close to the University of Dayton or Archbishop Moeller or St. X, please come watch and support.
Love that, man. Yeah, you got it out there. Well, talk to Irish fans real quick, Karson, as we wind down. Social medias, Twitter, Instagram, where can they follow you?
Twitter is Karson Hobbs 1. Once again, it's with a K. And then Instagram, the same thing, but straight just Karson Hobbs. And then what else? Instagram, Twitter. I think that's it, right?
Yeah. Well, until Twitter dies, and then we'll have to find something else out.
Maybe Threads. Maybe we'll start throwing
Threads. Maybe Threads. Oh man, I actually started Threads, and I'm like, I was on it for like a day, and I'm like, this is pretty lame right now.
I just don't see the point. Like we have Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a mess right now. But that's going to do it for this week's Karson's Corner. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. This was a long one, but it was a really good one. Make sure to go follow Karson Hobbs on every social media platform that you are on. I am Ryan Roberts, Director of Recruiting here at Irish Breakdown. Thank you so much for joining the Irish Breakdown podcast for this edition of Karson's Corner.